Yep. So that we'll have a replay, and it's also being published out to the Canine Coach Facebook page as well. So I'm going to try to keep up with questions as they come through. But this topic is a very important one and very timely to the season. I think we all know people who have been in the bathtub with their dogs when the storms get started or when the fireworks go off. We anticipate the 4th of July with great stress and anxiety ourselves, and we get really troubled by those things. We can do a lot to keep that in check. So one of the things is I want to make sure that you all are not soothing your dog in such a way that you are reinforcing their behavior. So dogs function in patterns and imprints a lot of the time. And if we are reinforcing that in an inadvertent way, then we could be helping them stay in that pattern in the future. And that pattern could potentially become worse as things move forward. So I really want to help you get those things under control. I'm trying to find my questions. So I'm supposed to be live in this group, and I don't see myself. I'm supposed to also be live on Facebook. So hopefully we'll be able to get that under control. So I'm just going to pull this camera around here so I can make sure I see it. Yeah, there we go. Sorry about that. I'll try to edit this part out of the replay. So one of the first things I want you to think about is your safety protocols, because this is not necessarily going to be resolved overnight. There are people that have experienced one drop of lavender or one drop of something and said that their dog doesn't have that problem, that the issue went away. For most of you, there's going to be a fair amount of work that needs to take place. In the meanwhile, while we're doing those things, or if you're traveling, especially somewhere new for the 4th of July or in the summer season when the storms are bad, please make sure you have your dog on a slip leash. That is not a plastic buckle collar, not a harness that they can actually back out of. So if you're using a harness, it needs to fit properly, and make sure that the collars are snug enough that they can't tuck their head and dip out of it. Dogs perform Houdini acts under stress and under anxiety and fear. So we need to be prepared with the tools in place to make sure that that cannot happen. And a slip lead, something that, or good martingale collar that fits properly, that they cannot back out of, is an important thing. Also, make sure you have tags on your collars. That tag needs to be your mobile number, which is true for most of us now that we don't even have a home phone anymore. But a lot of people used to put their home phone on the tag and then they travel and they've only got their mobile phone with them. So mobile phone number on the tags, and make sure that your dog is chipped just in case those tags or that collar comes off and winds up in your hand and not running down the way with the dog. Also make sure that even if you have a fenced in backyard and your dog is known to be afraid of thunder and or fireworks, or if you have never been through thunder and fireworks with your dog, they go outside on a leash only for potty breaks. The idea is to keep them in the house, but if you must take them outside for a potty break, they're on a leash in the season of fireworks times. And I don't know about you guys, but for me, where I live, that happens for like a whole week, every night for a whole week. And then thunder and storms, we just don't know when they're going to happen. But when they are occurring, if you must go out, your dog needs to be on a good slip lead, even in a fenced in yard. Again, dogs perform Houdini acts when they are under stress and under fear. And dogs that you think might not be able to get out of a little opening under or jump over will show you that they can. So be very aware of those things. Okay. So Poppy, don't do that. I don't know if you can see her, but she's back there digging in my chair. So we want to make sure that you are starting to take some preparatory actions to help your dog get through thunder and fireworks season without a lot of drama, without a lot of trauma, you know, and make sure that this anxiety that they're having can be put behind you. So many people know that their dogs have a bit of anxiety and they will head off to the vet and get some sort of medication. I honestly do not think that that is necessary for 99.9% of the dogs. There are some dogs that it may be, but if you have not tried the things that could help your dog overcome his anxiety, to work through that and become calmer and more confident on his own accord, then you have some work to do before we start medicating them. So what I want you to think about doing is there's a couple of things you need to work on, right? One is, if we stop and think about how dogs process things and how they see things in pictures. So when we do things like the Reiki work or the animal communication work, sort of these energy work healing things, we know that dogs see in pictures. And this is true for separation anxiety. This is true for aggressive behavior, for a lot of things. But if you have spent the day in agony yourself, preparing for all the drama and the trauma that's going to ensue, then your dog is preparing for it as well. And when it starts, if your heart and mind are, oh, poor pitiful puppy, right? Poor pitiful dog, then you need to change your opinion about that. You need to be saying words to your dog like, we got this, no big deal, we're safe, you're safe, I will protect you, you know, any of those kinds of things. But if we are running to the bathtub, right? If we're running to the bathtub and hovering in there with them, or they come to us for cuddling as a way of saying, I'm afraid, and you start going, oh, puppy, it's okay. Oh, puppy, don't be sad. Oh, puppy, don't be scared. Then what image are we presenting to them? What picture are they seeing? So change that up. Change how you are presenting what is happening to them. Speak to them about these things. Tell them in confident words what's happening. Again, that they are safe, that you will take care of things, and that they do not have to be afraid. Okay. You can also use this time to do some energy work. And if you don't yet know how to do that, I'm going to be talking about those things a little bit more. But it's really just being present. So most of us move into this pat, pat, pet, pet, all this sort of affection. And what you really need to do is offer stillness, right? If they come to you, put a hand on them, a firm hand, right? A little, I'm here, I've got you, like a little grip to it, right? A little presence of we're got this. But if you are presenting that sort of anxiousness in the way in which you touch them, or you're reinforcing with your language, you are keeping them stuck in that pattern. I use work when we are gearing up for storms and fireworks. And what I mean by that is I try not to let them go scooch under the couch, right? Or under the desk. Some dogs will feel the comfort of being surrounded by something. They may feel comfortable being under a blanket. They may feel comfortable being under, again, under the desk or under a table or whatever that might be. If their anxiety is sort of mild to moderate, that might be okay, and you just let them be. If it's severe, then you've got to get them out of the frame of mind that they're in. And there's really not a better way to do that than to distract them with gameplay or obedience work that they have already been taught. Not the time to teach something new, but you might go ask them for place or recall games, or I call it work for food, where we just have them moving around and they are earning the highest value treats available, maybe things that are only reserved for the activity of a storm. Now, you can't begin that in the storm. You have to practice this almost daily for a little while. And then when the storm starts to brew or the fireworks start to go off, you're like, let's play, let's go, right? And you get them into a state of mind, a pattern of activities that they are familiar with and brings them joy, and hopefully helps move them out of sort of this, I'm afraid, I'm stuck, I can't do anything mentality. I also like to put on like a YouTube or an Amazon Music kind of thing that is sounds of thunder and or fireworks, rotate them if needed. So you play it on a low volume in your home virtually 24 hours a day. They're just hearing these sounds, pop, 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 right? Boom, 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 at a very low volume. Now, we cannot simulate the Mother Nature portion of this, the barometric pressure change, or the boom, boom that's happening to your windows when they vibrate, right? We can't simulate that part, but we can simulate the sound. And if we can at least pull back one layer of what they're having to cope with and move them into a state of mind that is, I know what we're going to do when this is happening, then ideally we are overcoming those things. So start at a very low volume, and every couple of days increase the volume. Let it play continuously. After about a week or so, start to increase that volume in very short bursts of almost full volume. Just turn it up for a second or two and let it go boom, 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 and turn it back down. And then a little while later, do the same thing. So these surprise elements of this higher volume of these sounds are happening when there is absolutely no threat of a storm, absolutely no threat of a firework occurring in those moments. And when you do that and you see your dog go, what was that? Right? Don't comment on it. Don't ask him, what was that? Don't even act like you heard it. Get out a treat or two a few minutes later. Let's go to work. Spend a minute or two getting them in the zone. That sound means we're going to work. That sound means we're getting something fun happening, right? And then continue that until you really are starting to desensitize them to that noise and create a new association of what that noise means. Okay. Again, we are just trying to pull back one layer of the percolator to try and work through some of these issues. I also like to use essential oils, and I'm going to share a little bit more about that in a second. But I also want you to think about if your pet has generalized anxiety in any other area, right? Meaning it is not limited to thunder and fireworks. It is anxiousness in a whole lot of aspects of their lives. We may really need to take a very close look at their gut health, their release of trauma, their emotional health, and the things that come with that. So it could be that we need to look at some energy work, some nutrition work, things of that nature as part of the bigger issue. But as we start thinking about these specific scenarios, I do like to bring in essential oils. Now, you are going to hear stories where somebody will say, my dog was nervous, my dog was having a freak out, and I pulled out 1 drop of lavender, rubbed it on his back, and he settled right down. That is totally possible. But it is more likely that it happens when the people believe that it's possible. If you're not sure, right? If you're going, I don't think this is going to work, but let's see what happens. It might not work, right? Remember those we see in pictures kinds of things, right? But I know that they can in fact work. And for some dogs where these issues are a bit more severe, it may take more than a drop, and it may take more than once. I like to put oils in the diffuser at times when there are no storms, at times when there are no fireworks. We are working to imprint that particular oils and their scent have a calming effect. And when we smell that, when the dog smells that, we want to make sure that they move into a calm state of mind and maybe even to this work mode, right? So if you are not going to be home when the storm is occurring, after you've done all this pre-work, you can set the diffuser to be on a timer and kick on about 3:30 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon when we know the afternoon storms take place or things of that nature, and help your dog move into that just based on scent. Just based on scent. If we are home and doing some of this imprint work, I also like to use cedarwood oil. Think any of the big tree grounding, earthy, sort of nurturing oils, but cedarwood is a common one that the dogs like. I also like to use either valerian or vetiver with the cedarwood, and sometimes I'll even add the lavender in and make a little combination of 2 or 3 different essential oils into a blend and put that on the dog. We'll talk about dilution later. We're just talking about this particular subject tonight. But cedarwood, vetiver, lavender, valerian are all excellent. CBD is a great option. There is a CBD Calm roller. I like this one a lot. I use it for a whole lot of things, including me, or dogs that I'm going to for training sometimes. And I use it on Poppy. And when because she can at times get a little freaked out by the storm. She does not panic. She does not get into a real state of, oh my Lord, but you can see the concern in her eyes. And so when that happens, I follow these exact same protocols, right? But CBD is a great option. There are some other choices for essential oils that may or may not be appropriate for your dog. One of the benefits I like about the products that I'm talking about is I can keep them on hand, use them for myself, use them for the dog, for a variety of topics. It's not limited to only using at a specific time. I bring them out when these times are necessary, but I may have many, many uses for these products. There is also a supplement that I like called Sleep Essence that has melatonin and valerian root in it. Now, yes, you can get those two products, valerian root or melatonin. The key is we have to figure out how much may be appropriate for your dog. Depending on the level of stress, that might vary. And we also have to look at the quality of product. That's true for essential oils as well, right? We can't just go to the local mega retailer, the local fragrant supply store, and buy those products. They are typically not safe for your animal. We need to know that the products we're using are safe and trustworthy and effective. And so that's why I'm very picky about those choices that I use. But many people will try to use Benadryl. I'm not a fan of that. Benadryl for you and I may make us sleepy. I don't see that work in the same way for the dogs. I also don't really like using a product for its side effect. Benadryl's primary use is an antihistamine for allergies. And if we're constantly using it for its side effect purpose and not its antihistamine properties, we run the risk of creating a different kind of problem. So be careful about those things. If your dog has had some level of real trauma associated with storms and or fireworks, and they do, like if you, please do not take your dog out to a fireworks show. I know this from firsthand experience and learning it the hard way. I took Huey many years ago to the Whitewater Center in Charlotte for the 4th of July show. It scared him about to death. I was worried he was going to be running off. It was all we could do to keep him still enough to not thrash and flail around and all of those things. So he had a traumatic experience. If your dog has had a traumatic experience like that, has run away from home, has really been in the throes of what could be a PTSD type scenario, you might need to do some energy release work there. And we need a deeper level of essential oil that could be things like Trauma Life or Release or Tea Away from the Animal Sense line, which is diluted, right? It's pre-diluted. So a lot of people feel a little safer about using that with their animals for the first time, but you might actually need the strength of something like Trauma Life to really help them work through that imprint of trauma. And again, what could look and feel like PTSD type symptoms, PTSD type experiences. Okay. So, yeah, I think that's about it. Keep in mind that if you are trying to put your dog on medications from the veterinarian, I can't advise you not to, right? I'm not a veterinarian. I cannot offer medical advice. I can tell you some experiences, and that is that when we use a product like ACE, for example, some dogs will have the opposite reaction. It's the same when we talk about using an essential oil for imprint, right? If we bring something out in the throes of an experience, then that scent can get associated with that type of experience. ACE, when given to some dogs who are tremendously under stress, they will blow through that medication, meaning it does not work in the same way. And in some cases, it makes things worse. makes things worse. And so that can be a real problem, and you don't know until you've been through it. And then for most, when we give it to him, the dog's just knocked out, right? He doesn't know there's a storm happening around him or fireworks happening around him. He is just out, and maybe out for a significant period of time, including sometime the next day. That's a problem, I think, in my opinion. And it does nothing to help your dog cope with the experience should they ever be in that scenario without access to those medications. Does nothing to help the brain and the heart and the body and the mind overcome this fear, overcome this anxiety. So there are some definite risks associated with that. I have seen people put their pets on anti-anxiety medications for the entire summer because the dog has such a problem with the risk of the potential of what's going to happen during the storms. That's not fun, right? I think that's a hard decision to make, and I get why some people do it. I just know you have alternatives that you can and should be considering and putting in the work, putting in the training and the work, and using these supportive elements that are just that. They're supportive, they're healthy, they are working at an emotional level, not at a knock out the brain kind of level, not at a let me just let you pass out for a while and not even know that this is happening. So put in the work. That's what I ask of you, is try some of these things, try a combination of some of these things, get ahead of the preparation by starting now with the sound desensitization, I can't talk, and the imprint of scent and the experience of this is the game we play, right? This is the activity that we're going to do. And all those things can come together, and suddenly your dog's like, what storm? Doesn't bother me. I have seen this where I've done it. I did it with a Great Dane years ago that was terrified. And by the time we had done our work, she literally would walk outside in the middle of a storm, do her business, and come back in. She was that calm about it. Does that happen to all of them? No, not always, but we certainly can see a tremendous amount of improvement, and we should see how much improvement we get before we make decisions about putting our pets on medication. Takes some work. Everything we do takes a little bit of work and a little bit of effort, a little bit of technique to figure it out. And I'm happy to help you. So feel free to ask questions on this post, ask them in our Facebook group, and let's see if we can help you not have to work through, not have to experience the trauma of this summer. I'm going to look real quick and see if I can find any questions. I can't even find my post. That's the problem. Okay, I do find questions. Amy asks, what do you think about thunder shirts in addition to the oils? Excellent question, Amy. And I get this one a lot. I think a thunder shirt can be helpful for some dogs, but here's what happens most of the time. The owner buys the thunder shirt and does not do the conditioning work, this imprint work that I keep talking about, this pattern of, I'm going to put this on you when there is absolutely no risk, no association with the storm or with the fireworks whatsoever. We're just putting it on. We're going to put it on and I'm going to feed you your supper. We're going to put it on and you're going to get oiled up for a massage. You're going to put it on and I'm going to take it off, right? You have to condition the dog to wearing it. It can feel like a very nurturing little squeeze, right? It is the same thought process that I was sharing with you all about don't pet your dog and oh, poor puppy. Don't pet them and inadvertently further imprint this fear. Don't create this association between something like the Thundershirt and the storm. Don't pet them. Put that firm hand on them as if to say, I'm here, we got this, you're safe. And that's the picture we're trying to send to them, right? But if I'm like, oh, poor puppy, and I'm just squeezing and pet, and I'm so fussy about the whole thing, and you can just see my face, right? Getting all, oh, puppy. Then that shirt's going to take on that emotion, that experience, that imprint in a negative way. So they can be extremely helpful. You just have to condition the dog to wearing it and making sure that it is not associated with the storm or the fireworks. So just like we would muzzle condition, or just like when a puppy puts a leash or a harness on the first time and they think, oh my God, you have paralyzed me, right? Thundershirts are no different in how they respond sometimes to those first experiences of putting it on. Other questions? Okay, well, I hope everybody who watches this learns a little something and gives some of these tips a try. I would love to hear your feedback. If you have a dog that is struggling with thunderstorms and fireworks and you find yourself in the bathtub or feeling the need to be in the bathtub with them, let's get ahead of it now and let's talk about it in the Facebook group and see what we can do to prevent that from happening and help them make some progress this year. Okay, thank you everybody for coming. We'll talk soon.